On this episode of the Rock Down South podcast, we sit down with super talented rock vocalist and American Idol finalist James Durbin. We talk about his new album, The Beast Awakens, his passion for heavy metal, and the love he has for his family. We hope you all enjoy. Let's go. Welcome to the Rock Down South podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the show today. I'm Mark, and my friends and I decided to create this podcast to focus exclusively on music interviews that we do. We are all massive fans of music and attend far too many concerts each year. If this is your first time listening, definitely check out our sister show called People Down South, where we interview a variety of inspiring individuals on their views on work and life. We hope you enjoy this interview Gil and I did with James Durbin. You may remember him as a finalist on the 10th season of American Idol. We think he probably should have won that season, but there was some stiff competition that year, including superstars Scotty McCreery and Lauren Elena. After Idol, he put out a few solo albums before becoming the singer of 80s heavy metal band Quiet Riot for a few years. He's now back with a new heavy metal project entitled Durbin, with the new album, The Beast Awakens, coming out February 12th. I think you guys will really enjoy the conversation we had with James. He is no doubt one of the most talented rock vocalists out there. The things this guy can do with his voice are simply incredible. James and I are actually the same age and found out we had a few things in common on this interview. We get into some cool heavy metal discussion and talk about the new album, but I think one of the most interesting parts of the interview is where James talks intimately about his family and the love he has for them. It's really heartfelt stuff. So without further ado, here's the interview. James Durbin, how you been, man?
I have been great. Of course, there's plenty of things that one is able to complain about, but I choose not to, and I have no complaints.
Let's get right to it. The new album, The Beast Awakens, dropping February 12th, I believe.
Yes, February 12th.
Yeah, it's been a few years since a rock solo album. How proud are you of this new album?
Oh, super proud. You know, it's just looking back on 2020, the year it was, and, you know, the year of our Lord, Voldemort. Just looking back on it, just looking at it like, wow, I was able to make this album, and all the pieces were able to come together, and it's just crazy. It's crazy thinking about it.
That's awesome. So I just want to let you know that I have actually followed your career for many years. From Idol to your first couple solo records to going independent and then to your time with Quiet Riot and then to now. So really, whenever you put music out in the past, I would always try to give it a listen. And something that I've always liked about you, James, is your versatility when it comes to the genres of music that you have dabbled in. So really, you know, from pop to hard rock to heavy metal, and then even to acoustic Americana, I think you have songs that sound great really in every category.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. So really, when I heard that you were signed to a new label and we're going to put out solo music again, I really kind of just automatically thought that it would probably be more along the lines of radio rock. And then I actually got a chance to listen to those 3 songs that you released. And no joke, the first thing I thought was, this is Dio. This is Judas Priest. He is totally making a classic heavy metal album. And I really couldn't believe it. So I was really surprised that you had a label that was willing to take that sort of chance with you rather than pushing you to make something more modern. So that really kind of comes to my question. Why create a classic metal album right now in your career?
Well, no one's creating a classic heavy metal album in 2021 for the cash benefit of it. You know, you really got to really love it and, you know, really be into it. But when I got contacted by Frontiers Records, following my making my departure from QR Public, just 2 days later, they were the first email in my inbox that morning. And we're interested because I said in a press release, what I'm planning to do is make new music, make more James Durbin music or Durbin, you know, and really at that point, I really wanted to make the switch to Durbin and put whatever album this was going to be under that banner and just rebrand in a way, kind of regather. And Frontiers is really known for putting out metal albums and working with great bands of the past, and albums that I did during my time with Quiet Riot were under the label of Frontiers. You know, we did Road Rage, we did the live album One Night in Milan at the Frontiers Music Festival, and then the last one, Hollywood Cowboys, that came out after I had departed from the band. But I had never worked with Frontiers directly. I'd never had any talks with them or anything until that email. And that was great. It was great to hear from them and to hear excitement of a label wanting to work with me and continue to work with me in that capacity. And they saw something in me. So, I kind of asked them, what kind of album do you guys want me to make? Just kind of going through the paces of it. And they said, well, we're really interested to know what kind of album you want to make. Like, what are you thinking for this? And we both kind of said in different ways, but almost at the same time, classic heavy metal. That's what I was going to say, in like a really fun way. But then it's like figuring out, okay, well, what kind of classic heavy metal is that? Like in the party sense? Is that in like a Sammy Hagar sense? There's so many different facets of what that could be. And to me, classic heavy metal is like the real classic heavy metal is Dio and Sabbath and Priest and Maiden. But figuring out how to do that in this day and age and do it in a way that's not poking fun at it, that's not so tongue-in-cheek that it's Steel Panther. That's tongue in several different cheeks. But there's ways to do it, if you go more video game wise, like Dragon Force, or, sci-fi, like Glory Hammer. But I really wanted to make something because, like, when I look at Dio and I think of Dio on stage or just in albums and just the way he presents himself and performs, there's no joke about it. It is serious. I mean, he might be slaying a dragon on stage with a lightsaber, but he's doing it with a serious tone. There's a weight to it. There's a gravity in these songs, whether he's singing about beasts or the eyes of a cat in the black and blue. I knew I still wanted to have some weight to it. And thinking of Rob Halford when he's singing about the Sentinel, has he actually witnessed with his own eyes a flesh-consuming demon? Probably not, but it might be a euphemism for something else, and blurring the lines of where fiction starts and the truth ends. And I knew I really wanted to do something like that and just set off in that direction.
Yeah, it's even in the lyrics, it's in the sound. It's fantastic so far. And again, only a few samples, but now I understand you wrote the music on this yourself. What was that process like? And was that freeing? Tell us a little bit about the writing process.
The making of the album, like you said, I wrote all the music, 100%. Every song, every lyric, every melody, every riff of the music itself, excluding guitar solos and bass parts and stuff. But a lot of it was written with my voice. My phone voice memos has so many different vocal guitar riffs. If I don't have a guitar with me, just come up with this idea in my head. And for instance, the title track of the album, The Beast Awakens, the song itself, the intro of the song is dun 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 dun. And I have a voice memo of that. I have a lot of voice memos like that. Same with Prince of Metal. Da 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 da. And figuring out those ideas just with my voice, and then taking that to my guitar and transposing it onto the guitar itself and seeing where it goes. Evil Eye kind of has that dun 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 dun. And I have voice memos of that as well, of me doing just that. So it's really interesting going back and listening to these things and then listening to the song and really seeing how it evolved. But the idea is completely there in the voice memo.
It's fantastic.
That's awesome. So one of the things that I think about when I listen to certain artists is I really wish they turned the rock up in that song. And I wonder what that song would have sounded like with more aggressive guitars and vocals. But one of the things that I've always liked about your musical style, James, is that you always turn up the rock and the intensity in your music. No matter if it's a pop or heavy metal song, it seems like you guys make creative decisions, creative choices to push the music and your vocals to just about as heavy as the song will allow. And a good example of this is your song Parachute, which I really like. And I know it's one of the popular songs that you've recorded, but even that song, you're pushing your vocals, the guitar, and the tempo to the limit of what that song would probably allow. Is that just the rocker in you coming out, or is that something that you actively think about when it comes to creating music?
It's not something that's fully thought about all the time, but it's definitely always there. Fortunately, with Parachute, I had a killer producer in Scott Stevens, Scott the Ninja Stevens. And Scott is responsible for writing, co-writing, producing so many of active rock radio's #1 hits of the last 8 years. He really is a force to be reckoned with, and reckons with just about everybody, from Hailstorm to Daughtry to Skillet to Black Veil Brides. He's just found his way with so many killer records, and was really fortunate to get the chance to work with him on Celebrate. But he has that mindset. He has that mentality. We were making a pop record at the time. I really wanted to have been making an active rock record, and just kind of had to roll with the punches that the record label was throwing. So we really tried to kind of heavy it up and definitely push those limits of the mix. And it definitely punches. It definitely hits. This is a primarily rock producer and metal producer doing a pop album. So that was definitely fun to bring into that. But he's such a multifaceted songwriter that it was a blessing to get to work with him and to get to pick his brain. And things that he does or that I picked up on are things that I still do to this day. That's something that I could suggest to artists starting off. Find someone that's better than you at what you do and pick their brain, work with them on it. Be the best in the room at what you do, but definitely surround yourself with people that are better than you at what you don't do. There's so many things to learn from, and that's really how I've adapted and evolved my songwriting, is from the skills of different songwriters that I've had the opportunities to co-write with, be it Scott Stevens or be it James Michael from 6 a.m., like one of my favorite songwriters, and I've learned so much from just in his note choices, just his sensibilities as a songwriter and as a singer, and the notes that I prefer to sing. It's really up to you. You can write, there's really no limits in the sense of what you can do. There's limits in the tools that you have. There's limits, if you're not a very good guitar player or anything, but practice makes perfect. Fake it till you make it. That's another one. It's just, I never thought of myself as a riff writer, but here I am. I just wrote a classic heavy metal album and wrote every riff on it. So I kind of got rid of the idea that I'm not something and just crafted an idea of what I am. And there it is, you make it.
On the rest of the album, we haven't heard it all. Have you pushed your vocals into other territories, like, screaming, not necessarily like King Diamond, but maybe more Chester Bennington metalcore type, either on this album or elsewhere?
No, I've tried to sing that way. I just don't have it in me. My screams are very old school metal, in that way, in that Rob Halford, Jeff Tate, Bruce Dickinson kind of way. So I've tried to figure out the other way. It just hurts my voice. I could scream like really high notes with a lot of power and aggression, and I can do that till the cows come home. But if I try to do any sort of like the guttural stuff, it just really hurts. I can't figure it out. I'd love to figure it out, to at least have it in my back pocket. Like, I do voiceovers, and I love working on different characters and things and figuring out, like recently I've always been able to do Ernie from Bert and Ernie. Like, oh, hey, Bert, Ernie here. Hey, Bert, whatever, rubber ducky. But Bert is different. Ernie is very easy, I'm used to doing Ernie. So, it'll definitely be something that I hope to acquire one day down the road, but it takes a long time to kind of figure out and to perfect. And even with voiceovers too, it's like,
Bert is kind of in the back of your throat. He kind of talks back here.
I've been working on Winnie the Pooh too. So that, just working on different voices. I'm more dedicated to learning how to talk like Winnie the Pooh than I am to scream. think. Yes.
I bet your kids must love that.
They do. I think my wife's had enough of Winnie the Pooh. That's been in the last 48 hours that he's really reared his head.
So something cool that we have in common, James, is that we are pretty much the same age. I think our birthdays are probably just 4 months apart. And so, we were both born here at the tail end of the 80s, and we were too young to remember any of it. So I don't know about you, but I totally wish that I was born earlier and could have experienced the 80s as a teenager.
Like me.
I don't know. Like I think about it sometimes and think about what are the chances and what are the odds and all that. But I'm pretty stoked on what I have. So I tend not to try to think about that stuff very much. I'm just blessed for the life I've got and my wife and my kids. And, none of those things would have happened the same way if in a hypothetical world I was born earlier. But, even in a hypothetical world, if I was born earlier, I wouldn't necessarily have gotten the chance to play with everyone I've gotten the chance to play with from that era. Singing with Rob Halford, sang with Bret Michaels, beginning of 2020 down in Dominican Republic, and sung with Sammy Hagar, and have chatted with who have I chatted with? Who have I not chatted with? Just spending time and playing with Mick Mars on a record, and I feel like I've been able to do more, when it comes to the 80s and the people that musicians from that era that have inspired me. I've been able to do so much more in this era than I probably ever would have in that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I definitely would be glad to be born when I was born so I could enjoy, like you, kind of the, meeting everybody and meeting your heroes. I think that's fantastic. I was really just more saying, I wish I would have lived when I was younger so I grew up with better music,
Oh, yeah, that too, yeah.
Hey, but you have all the music at your fingertips. You just pop on Spotify or YouTube and it's right there, all the 80s, anything you want. So that's the advantage of this younger generation.
My first concert was Trapped. And that's all I'll say. I was free tickets. I didn't really want to be there. I won them from the radio station that was outside because I was just hanging out, and they were like, "Hey, if you go away, I'll give you these tickets to the concert tonight." I was like, "I've never been to a concert." And they were like, "Well, you're in luck. It's Trapped." Oh, who are they? They've got the big hit on the radio right now. And I'm like, "Oh, cool." So I went and really tried to enjoy myself the best I could, but I was trapped.
My first was Bon Jovi open for Rat.
Ah, man.
That's how old I am.
That is old.
My first was ironically Poison when I was 17 or 18.
Man.
Mark's dragged me to Poison several times.
He's come around here in the later years. He wasn't a fan back in the day. So that brings me to the question, what's it like being a young artist in the heavy metal scene when everybody's so much older?
I don't really worry about it. I don't really ever look at my age as being something that works against me, because I feel like an old soul when I'm around those guys and on tour and stuff. And like when I was with QR, like we did a bunch of shows with Skid Row and a bunch of shows with Rat, and just kind of all over the board as far as 80s hair metal bands. And it's just fun, it's just enjoyable. People are people. It doesn't really matter who you're out there with. And that's the real thing that I remind myself. It's like these guys that you grow up listening to, and we did a lot of shows with Warrant also. And, I've got my Cherry Pie CD and rocking out to Uncle Tom's Cabin. And but then just getting to spend time with these guys, and with the exception of the loss of Janie Lane, get to know them. And, we're all talking about our kids and, and really like human, really regular everyday stuff. It's nice. It really is nice. I'm not like a super party guy. Like I'll have a beer, but just hanging out, just shooting the breeze and getting along with people. I'm not a drama guy. I'm not a drunk, not a super crazy party guy either. So it's definitely nice for my speed of personality. I really enjoy it. I don't really hang out with people my own age. My wife's 9 years older than me. We've got kids. We've been together for 13 years almost, and I'm 32. So I've lived a life in a short amount of time. I like the speed that I'm on. It's fun, but I'm still a fan too. I'll go out in the crowd and enjoy the show too. I don't just want to sit in the back and feel like I've made it. I feel like the best thing you can do is to support the people that you're out there with. And in turn, they get a better feeling of who you are as well, because they see that you're out there and they point out to you, you're out there supporting the guys that you're out there with. And I think that's really important.
Beast Awakens, favorite song, or if you don't have one, song you would recommend to a hard rock or heavy metal fan that may not yet be familiar with Durbin?
I would recommend Riders on the Wind. Riders on the Wind. It's very much in that Dio Sacred Heart kind of a space. It's not a ballad, but it's kind of a mid-tempo It's very moody in that way. I feel like it could have been a cut off of Holy Diver. It's kind of in that vibe.
Love Dio.
So many of us grow up listening to bands that we love and that we wish we were a David Lee Roth or a Vince Neil. So here's a question. If you could magically become another singer with their voice and perform a tour, who would that be? And what tour would it be? So not you fronting another band. So somebody could say, you know, blabbermouth down the road, oh, James Durbin wants to front X band. No, I'm talking about the artist and the tour that you'd want to be. For example, maybe I'd want to be a John Bon Jovi on the Slippery When Wet tour. What would your answer be to that?
Yeah, what you said. That, oh man, that'd be crazy. That'd be a wild tour.
That was a wild tour.
Oh man, I suck with these kinds of questions. Just because I'm just like, wow, there's that, there's this, you know. But if I say this, then oh boy, I don't know what's going on backstage there. I don't know if I want to be part of that.
What do you think you'd have most fun singing repertoire of songs?
Oh, there you go.
You know, if you were, you know, David Lee Roth or Vince Neil at their height, or a, you know, Rob Halford.
Yeah, I'd pick Halford for the music, but not for backstage. Sorry, Rob.
We'll go with that.
Love you, brother. If we're going old school, if we're going classic era, I'd say Dio 84 Sacred Heart Tour, because I get to slice open a dragon every night with a lightsaber. If we were going modern, I'd say My Chemical Romance, Welcome to the Black Parade tour, because I went to that tour and that album still kills. It's such a great album, such great songwriting. There's weight to it, and it just punches you in the face, and it never ends. Just being up there in those outfits and cake face, and yeah, that'd be killer. And then, you know, I could be on stage and high five a young James Durbin in the crowd.
James, you're taking me back. Man, I think that was, man, I was probably 19 or 20 years old when I saw them. They opened for, who was it? It was Linkin Park on that tour.
I saw them with Linkin Park also. Linkin Park did a big tour. I can't remember what it was called. It was a huge tour with a bunch of different bands. It was like a music festival that they were touring. And it was Linkin Park headlined it, My Chemical Romance, Plain White Tees, Him. I was stoked to see Him. Vilvallo. Love that.
I think Him was there.
Yeah, it was probably the same tour.
I remember spending my hard-earned money when I was like 19 or 20 to buy one of those expensive tickets to go.
Same here. Same here. I went with a bunch of friends, and it was kind of like birthday and Christmas all in one.
Hey, James, this is really bringing me back. But do you remember on that tour, for some reason, I remember My Chemical Romance telling all the guys to take off their shirts and swing them around their head.
I don't remember that, but I definitely wouldn't have done that. I was very chubby.
What? Really?
And I was walking around in my bright pink Him Razorblade Romance album cover t-shirt and getting so much love and high fives just because that was a really rare shirt.
Right.
No one could get that shirt. You know, it was just, I don't even remember where I got it. And then I lost it to like a ex-girlfriend or something, which still eats me alive, although my wife would never let me wear it because it's bright pink and it just has a almost half naked, well, definitely half naked Vilvallo on the front with his tattoos and his what's the word I'm looking for, not manly, not ladylike, but in between. What's the word I'm looking for?
Androgynous?
Androgynous. Yeah, is it the androgynous Vilvallo on the cover? Yeah.
So here's a little bit more of a serious question. What grounds you through all the ups and downs? I know you've had a long career at this point of 10 years. It seems like it's been much less time, but you've done many different things. You've been with different labels, different bands, independent, writing your own songs. Before that, you're with some of the best songwriters in the world. I know many other men probably would have given up or gotten strung out along the way. So what kind of grounds you through all that change?
It's my family. It's my wife, my kids. I didn't really have much of a dad. I had a dad, and I think about him all the time. And I've got a picture of him right here.
He was a bass player, right?
Yeah, he was a bass player, and there he is.
Wow.
So one of his old friends gave me this, and I'm just...
Some likeness there. Yeah. Some serious likeness. Sorry for your loss, man.
Yeah, I didn't really get to know him, though. So it's more like, you know, even when he was alive, I didn't really get to know him because he wasn't really around. I have older sisters and they got to really spend time with him and are more aware of his flaws and where he didn't level up and meet their expectations. And so like I know that, but I still think of his dreams. He had dreams similar to mine, wanted to make a living as a musician. And through research and whatnot, I have been able to see that he definitely succeeded. He just had too many addictions. He was a heroin addict. He was a drug addict and an alcoholic. And I know for those people that like those things, they take over and they're not necessarily more important, but they have more of a connection to those things, whereas putting his kids to sleep at home wasn't as exciting or as important to him as, going to the bar and seeing if he can sit in with the band. Of course he can sit in with the band. He's the best bass player in town. He can go anywhere he wanted and sit in with anybody. They'd be like, oh, Willie Durbin? Oh, hell yeah. Oh my God. Come on. But like, I could do that, I'm sure, but that's not even an idea. It's just not who I am, but really like, I'm a homebody and I love being home and I don't like putting on pants and surprise guys. No, there's been pants on all day, but I'd much rather be home with my wife and kids than out and off somewhere. And that's really what keeps me grounded. I can go and play on stage in front of 40,000 people and come right back home and play Legos with my son and, tea parties with our daughter and, making markers or just watching silly YouTube videos of squirrels. So it's like, I don't always have to associate the two. And I understand that the guy that goes up and does all that stuff, I let that be a different guy. He's a different guy. It is me. And which I absolutely love doing that. And I just get such a thrill and such a rush. And I can't wait to do it again. But I also get a thrill and a rush of taking my guitar to somebody's backyard and playing an acoustic show to like 15 people, 20 people, that's fun too. But also I just get the same thrill of just hearing my kids laugh or watching alone with my wife. So it's, too many good things. I realize that I've got a lot of good things in my life. And looking at my dad, I don't think that he realized how many good things he had in his life. He had a lot of support and a lot of love. And he was just kind of looking in other places for that love or that attention or that, what's the word?
Validation.
The validation, exactly. Yeah, I'm not always in search of validation. I mean, it's tough when you're promoting a new record and you want to hear what people think of it, So that's where the validation thing comes in of like, what are they saying? What do they think? But in the overall sense of, I know that I've done some good things, but to me, like, raising my kids and being there for my kids and being a good husband and not being a douchebag.
Thanks for sharing. And we wish you the best because that's fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You can balance it like that. That's incredible.
It's definitely difficult. It's not easy. I have to keep telling myself that, to remind myself to not ever go there and not ever be the opposite, and through it, I've researched my dad and I've researched things about him and found that he did succeed, found that he did do things that were amazing. And he played on a record with Steve Marriott from Humble Pie, like this album that I randomly found from this group that he played with called The People. That was this random one-off record out here in Santa Cruz for some little independent production. And Steve Marriott played on it. And the song's out there. The song's on YouTube. Somebody posted it. The band is called The People. The song is called Here and Now. And there's one video of it up on YouTube of it just shows the album cover. And the song is my dad playing bass, super like you can really hear it. And Steve Marriott singing all over it. So it's like one of my favorite singers. And wow, my dad playing on this with Steve. It's just, wow, who'd have thought, he did succeed. He did reach his dreams. He got to tour it. He got to go places, but just the thrill of the drug was greater than the thrill of like, pat yourself on the back. You did it. All right, go home. Love your wife, love your kids. And to me, that's like the fact that I get to do it and then get to come home and love my wife and love my kids. That's like, wow.
That's winning.
That's winning. Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. I got a lighter question for you, James. What is a song that you absolutely love to sing, but you're probably not very suited to sing it? Your voice just does not do a good job at it. It's not a good fit, but it's something that you just don't care, that you love to sing, probably privately or just with your family or with your friends or karaoke.
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that doesn't necessarily suit my voice. I mean, a lot lately I've been liking to sing along with Michael McDonald, you know, putting on those Doobie Brothers records or even his solo stuff, that first album. And, you know, okay, we're not in love anymore. Baby.
Nailed it.
No, I love singing like Michael McDonald. You know, it's not my voice whatsoever, but it's definitely fun to like, oh, yeah, these really interesting like note choices and just his sensibility and just all that hair. And then like the way that you sing, you know, just something about it. It's so shticky. Also Barry Gibb, also some Bee Gees. I've been getting down on some Bee Gees, you know. Your love, how deep is your love? I really need your love. Cause we're living with a fool, making us down in the ocean, let us be. We belong to you and me. I believe in you. Just hearing like people's voices and their tone and everything and just singing along with it. It's just like, and he always did this thing with his, he always made sure to sing like this so his teeth showed. And
Yeah, that's how he was stretching his chords. He had to do that. Yeah.
It's always like he was like chewing the invisible sandwich too. You know?
That's so good, man. That is some. You seriously have some talent.
No, thank you.
That is cool.
Well, let it be known that James Durbin sounds good singing everything, even Michael McDonald.
That's right. And Barry Gibb.
I'll be holding on.
And Bert and Ernie.
I'll be holding on.
What about like some Joe Cocker, something like?
Oh yeah. You gotta really get it. What does he do? What would you do if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me? Dig it in. Lend me your ears. I sing you a song. I will try not to sing out of key. I'm starting to talk like Tracy Morgan. That's what Tracy
awesome.
Morgan would sound if he did a Joe Cocker impression. I would try not to sing out of key. Oh, baby, I get by with a little help from my.
So these next questions are what we close with and ask everyone. So here we go. First question. What would you tell your 21-year-old self?
Stay humble. Stay humble. Big things are about to happen. And at that point, Idol would be happening very shortly thereafter. I auditioned when I was 21 and I went down to Hollywood Week on my 22nd birthday.
Wow.
And it was just wild. It was just crazy. In my headspace at that time, it was just a lot.
Question number 2. What are you drinking lately? If you drink alcohol, if not, what refreshing drink do you prefer?
I've been enjoying hazy IPAs. I really got into those through Sierra Nevada's a hazy little thing. Really love those. Hazy little things, really good. But just checking out different hazies. Never really had a taste for IPAs for a while. They were just too skunky.
Right.
They were too weedy. But there's definitely still some super skunky ones like the double IPAs, or I try to stay away from those. But some really good hazies. They just taste like sitting on an inner tube floating down the river. That's what it tastes like to me. And I started getting into scotch.
Oh, really?
Sipping scotch.
Like Macallan or?
Glenlivet?
Yeah, the Glenlivet, the 12, and Yellow Spot, and the Lagavulin. I tried the 12, the 14, and the special edition Nick Offerman 14, and the 16. But I haven't gone to the 18. That's pushing it. The 16 was like putting a burnt piece of bacon in your mouth and just trying to survive. Yeah.
So as you know, this is the Rock Down South podcast. We all live in the South. I know you're a California guy, but what is something that you love about the South?
Well, my wife and kids and I, we spent a little more than a year in Nashville. We had moved out there in 2018. We were there 2018 to 2019. And we got our fair share of the South. We love our biscuits. We love our barbecue. That sweet tea for sure is something. We found out the power of Chick-fil-A and Bojangles. Got to introduce my wife to a Bojangles biscuit, of which I found the Bojangles biscuits on the Idol tour with Scotty McCreery. He loved Bojangles so much that he had Bojangles ship some chicken biscuits all the way to Los Angeles, and they were like 4 days old. We're all sitting there eating these cold Bojangles biscuit sandwiches, like blueberry biscuits with a piece of fried chicken in it that's been sitting in a truck for 4 days. Yeah, we all dug down deep and supported our brother there.
What about Waffle House grits?
I'm not much for grits, but just the Waffle House experience. I've experienced it very many times on tour. Order a glass of apple juice at a Waffle House, and you will watch the woman at the counter proceed to break out like an 8-pack of apple juice boxes, like kids' juice boxes, and unravel each straw with each box and poke the hole in it and then squeeze the box into the cup. And watching this for 15 to 20 minutes to wait for your apple juice while you're dying inside. Cracking up.
That sounds about right.
But really, beyond that, just Southern hospitality, just the culture, just the kindness of the people. It's just a real good vibe that I take that and try and lead with that foot all the time.
James, thank you so much for being part of the podcast today. Where can people find you or connect with you on social or online? And what would you like to share besides the upcoming album on February, The Beast Awakens? Any parting comments?
Well, where folks can find me is primarily Instagram, is at James Durbin Official. I started a TikTok. I haven't done anything with it, but I believe it's the same. I think it's James Durbin Official. Facebook is facebook.com/Durbin Rock. Twitter at Durbin Rock. And at jamesdurbinofficial.com. At all those places, you can find links to my merchandise, which is available exclusively from threadless.com. So you can find that at jamesdurbin.threadless.com. We got merch all designed by me and inspired by songs and themes from the upcoming album, Durbin, The Beast Awakens. And I just want to say thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. And I just said that twice, but I mean that in two different senses. Thanks for listening to the album and the music. Thanks for listening here to me speak. And I just thank my fans every chance I get for all these years, almost 10 years of people being with me since Idol. And that's something to celebrate. So thanks for everything. I owe it all to my fans.
Well, James, we had a fantastic time talking to you today. We really thank you for coming on. And if you guys had any doubt whether James Durbin was a heavy metal artist, then look no further to the new album, The Beast Awakens, coming out February 12th, and get your answer. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We had such a great time chatting with James. He's such a good dude. Really, really humble guy who is massively talented. We wish him the best of luck and look forward to seeing him play live one day soon. Make sure to pick up the new album, The Beast Awakens, on February 12th and follow James on all of his social media pages. And as always, the views and opinions expressed by our guests on the podcast are theirs and don't necessarily reflect our own. All links can be found at rockdownsouth.com. We are your hosts, Mark and Gil, and you have been listening to the Rock Down South podcast. See y'all next time.